there, you philanthropic Philharmonics. That didn't make sense, but anyway, welcome to today's video. I'm going to be talking about my best practices for doing makeup whilst breaking out pretty severely, and also talking about how there's no hope, and no matter what you do, it still looks like you're breaking out. So sunshine and good news all around. So I've really not been wanting to do makeup tutorials right now because I don't want to put makeup on my face. And there's a hopelessness about putting makeup on my face. It's not just that I don't like the feeling of it, it's just that any funness for me that I might get from the process of like, ooh, and now I look great, is gone right now. And I don't feel like I can sort of rally you guys to be like, it's okay to break out because you can just do this and then you look great. And so it's like, I'm kind of a downer Debbie right now. And also it's just like, I feel sad. When I put makeup on, I feel sad because I'm like, this just is a different kind of bad looking. And then I was like, okay, so maybe I can do like a troubleshooting video or some other type of tutorial where I don't have to focus on like complexion, do something with the eyes. And then I was like, maybe it's good for me to just be really depressing about it and acknowledge the fact that like, if you're breaking out pretty badly, putting makeup on can do some things, but it's still gonna look like you're breaking out. And maybe just saying that out loud to people who are also breaking out might feel validating, because there's this sense that if you do makeup well enough, you'll be free. Like, if you can do your makeup like people on YouTube and Instagram, it's not gonna look like you're breaking out. Your skin's gonna look great, just like theirs does. But the thing is, theirs doesn't. Because if you have like active breakouts, like something kind of severe, not something minimal, it's going to show no matter what, because makeup can do very little about texture. So what makeup can do is it can remove the discoloration, right? And for me, when I've been working on sets and things, like that's enough in a lot of cases with people having good lighting and being on camera. So there's this separation between what you're seeing in reality and what you're seeing on a screen. Just removing the discoloration is enough. But if you have acne and you're walking around in the world, there's nothing you can do with your makeup that's going to make it look like you don't have acne, period. And I have had breakouts off and on throughout my life, never anything like this. And so I didn't understand that I lacked some understanding and some empathy for what that feels like, because I pretty much was always able to get to a point where it was like, well, yeah, I mean, you can't really tell, no one's really thinking about it. So what I did is I just filmed this tutorial. I feel like there's 3 different options, at least for me, for dealing with a breakout when it comes to my makeup choices that I make. So I filmed a tutorial on one on each side of my face, and then I'm just going to talk about the 3rd option. But anyway, I filmed this tutorial and I took some photos in natural light with my iPhone camera, just like close up, and I'm going to insert those so that you can see, like, you're looking at me right now on camera and you can see that there's texture. I intentionally set up my lighting so that it doesn't blow everything out, because I want you guys to see as much as possible what my face actually looks like, to set realistic expectations. But even this takes out so much. I look so much better right now than I do in life, because I have these big, beautiful, soft lights evening everything out. And I have this camera that is a robot version of a human eyeball, because that's what cameras are, which is kind of cool, side note, but also does not have the technological advances of biology. So it just doesn't capture everything, even in HD, which I am shooting in right now. It just can't see what a human eyeball is capable of seeing. So these options, again, are just my preferences. There's certainly more than 3 ways to do things. This is just for me on my own face daily, and also what I do if I'm working on a show or something. So option number 1 would be to use a medium coverage foundation and just stipple it all over and kind of building up the coverage in areas where there's more discoloration. That's what I've done on this side of my face. Option number 2 is to use a tinted moisturizer all over, massage that gently into the face, and then use concealer to target the more discolored areas. The third option is wearing nothing on my face. That's what I do most of the time right now. And I've just sort of, I don't know, it's like accepted my fate. I know I'm being so dramatic and it's just skin, but I did not understand until I was going through this how much it affects mental health. I know there are bigger world problems. I know that they matter more than this. This still sucks a lot. And I wish I could report that I had solved it and I found a way to just not care about it at all. I haven't yet. Maybe I'll get there. But anyway, for the most part, I just don't wear any makeup on my face at all because, as I mentioned earlier, even with makeup, covering the pigment can make a really big difference in photography and on camera. So if I'm going to take a picture of myself or get my picture taken or be on camera, then yeah, I can be optimistic about what doing makeup is going to do for me in that situation. But if I'm just walking around, I know that the texture of my breakout is still going to show. So it's a little bit like, why bother? And I guess my big message here is just, it's okay to feel that. And please don't think that you're incapable and that's why your acne is still showing. Your acne is still showing because makeup is not Photoshop and eyeballs just see too damn well. So unless we can just make everyone's vision a little worse or walk around with a filter, maybe like a box you put on top of your head that filters everything, might be onto something with that. It's going to show. And there are certainly worse things in life, right? There are way worse things. So now's the part where I say, I'm a professional makeup artist. Pretty good at my job. I've been doing it for like a decade. And this, I'm going to put up some photos, is what my skin looks like right now without this lighting and camera. I just took these photos on my iPhone so you can see I look like this right now to you and it looks so much better. And if you're at home going, when I do my makeup to cover my acne, it doesn't look like that. It doesn't look like that because you're not sitting in front of a nice camera and nice lights. This is what my face looks like. This is what it looks like with makeup. And that's just what it's going to look like, which is why the third option of just not wearing anything is fine. It's fine to let your skin breathe. Your value as a human being is not changed by having acne. Neither is mine. So I'm going to show you guys a little walkthrough with some tips of what I do and how I did these two different methods. And also, if you want more in-depth explanations, the Why Come No One Told Me That series, the parts about concealer and foundation, everything go pretty in depth. So if you're like starting from scratch, you can go back and watch those videos. I'll link them in the description. Hello. So I'm going to start with the all over foundation option, and I'm going to do it on this side of my face because this side has more texture right now. This side looks redder, I'm noticing on the camera, but it is in more of a healing stage, so it's actually a little smoother. This is the side that I want to stipple over. What I'm basically doing is taking a dampened sponge and a medium coverage foundation, and I'm just going to stipple it over the area. I find that stippling is best when there is a lot of texture. I'm going to use my go-to, which is the Kogan Dough foundation, and I'm just going to press it over the face. Oh, I forgot to say, all over, I already kind of primed my face by using, I've been mixing the Cerave like daily moisture, not the one with SPF. Sometimes it's called PM, and then I think they reformulated it or something to be like Cerave daily moisture. I don't know. But anyway, I've been mixing that one. I'll link it in the description with rosehip oil and giving that a minute to absorb. So I've already done that process. So to me, the sort of pros of this option are that it's quick. It's really just one step and pretty foolproof. It's simple. You're not trying to match colors of concealer to other things. So it's a little quicker and a little easier. And then I guess the only con would really be that you are putting like makeup on your whole face. If you do want to have a really like no makeup look as much as is possible when you're breaking out, then you know you're gonna get a better effect with using just a tinted moisturizer. Now, I like to use a fairly hydrating formulation even when I've applied oil as part of my primer, even when I have something in my eyeball, as I do in this moment, just because you really have one of two options when you're trying to cover a breakout. Either you're going to use a more drying formulation, like a foundation that's marketed as matte or satin finish or long lasting. Usually those have oil absorbing properties. You're going to end up with kind of like, I don't know, as the day goes on, it can start to like crack a little bit on the skin. I don't love that. I also don't like the appearance initially of satin and matte finishes as much. And then if you go with something more dewy, it might start to separate throughout the day. It will start to separate throughout the day and maybe look a little shinier. But if I have to pick one of those two things, I prefer the more hydrating one. I also feel like it's a little more forgiving of flaky texture, which even if you feel that you have really oily skin and that's part of why you break out, you still have flakiness around acne because of like the healing process of zit. So whatever suits you is fine, honestly. You can also use like a really full coverage, long lasting foundation and just do that all over. I just don't feel comfortable with full coverage makeup. I don't feel like myself, and that's really the only reason why I avoid it. If you feel better like that, then that is also perfectly fine. It's all fine, guys. It's makeup. So doing this, I am still going to have some of the color of the breakout showing. That's another thing I guess you could view as like a con, is if I use a medium coverage foundation, there's probably still a little bit of redness showing through, just a tad. Whereas if you do the tinted moisturizer and concealer, you know, with that concealer you can get pretty opaque. I also have some redness down on my neck. Okay, I don't set anything with powder. You can if it makes you happy, but again, I kind of like to keep things a little more hydrated. I feel like touch-ups are simpler that way because I can just sort of blend it all out again, and that's just my preference. Okay, so now I'm going to do this side of my face, which, as I mentioned, has more discoloration. It's more red right now, but has less flaky texture. I'm going to use the Laura Mercier Tinted Moisturizer and the Kevyn Aqua Sensual Skin Enhancer. I really like both of those products. I feel like there are a lot of full coverage concealers that could do what the Skin Enhancer does. The reason why I like this one is the good shade range, but also it is a really hydrating formula, even though it's pretty thick and has a ton of pigment in it. So I feel like it is pretty forgiving of texture. And the Laura Mercier Tinted Moisturizer is just really solid. It's a very dependable product. Laura Mercier is not cruelty-free, but it is one of the only brands that makes a tinted moisturizer that meets my quality standards, that has a shade range that can accommodate people of color, which is a conversation we need to be having. It's something we need to be aware of, kind of the position that we're putting people of color, especially Black people, in when we get really shamey about using products that aren't cruelty-free, because thankfully the climate is starting to change and there are more brands that are transitioning to being cruelty-free or that are getting funding that are cruelty-free and making big shade ranges. But it's still new and there's still not as many options. And I just went to Sephora and tried out a bunch of stuff to see if I could find tinted moisturizers other than this one that were cruelty-free, that did have a good shade range, and I still ended up using this one. So I used to love NARS for that reason, but they're not cruelty-free anymore. It's just something to be aware of. What position are we putting people of color in? What position are we putting Black people, especially Black women, in when we are really aggressive about only using products that are cruelty-free? Because the fact is there's not a ton of overlap, and that sucks. So I like to apply tinted moisturizer with my fingers and massage it into the skin. This is the main reason why this is not so great for when there's a lot of texture, especially a lot of flaky texture, because if you're massaging something into dry flakiness, it gets underneath, it starts to lift, and it becomes really apparent. So I just gently kind of press and massage it all over my face, or all over this half of my face. The whole point of this is that I still want it to be translucent, right? I'm not trying to cover my skin, but I do want to just even out some of the redness that I have throughout. I also wanted to mention that if you have suggestions for tinted moisturizers and serums and things that have a good shade range and are cruelty-free, I would absolutely love for you to leave those in the comments. I know there are a few. I'm sure there are some, but when I looked, I just wasn't happy with the product itself with several of them. Okay, tinted moisturizer portion complete. I'm now going to use a little buffing brush and the Sensual Skin Enhancer. I feel like I always make this joke of I'm like, ooh, this does feel sensual. But anyway, it does feel very sensual right now. And I'm just covering all of the areas where there's discoloration. And on those areas, I'm kind of patting it in. And then when I get to the edge of one of those areas, I use less pressure with my brush, so I'm kind of like pressing where I need to cover, and then I'm backing away a little bit so I have less pressure and just doing like a little light blending motion so that there's a smooth transition from coverage to the tinted moisturizer where there's minimal coverage. This is a good stopping point to show you kind of like covered, not covered. Tap and press, and then taper it out. Well, I'm done, and my camera cut out an undetermined amount of time ago. I don't think it was very long, but this is tap and press, little blendy blends. I'm gonna walk you through how I finish off the rest of my base makeup really quick, just because some of those things can potentially overlap with breakouts, so it's still helpful to know. For under eye concealer, I'm gonna keep it really light, and I'm actually just using the Kogan Dough in the lighter shade, and my sponge, I'm gonna just dab that. Then I'm going to use a buffing brush and the Salt New York bronzer in light medium. And I'm very much going to do a pressing, dabbing motion for all of the rest of the face because I don't want to mess up what I just did. If I start swiping, I'm also going to remove the coverage that I have laid out on my face, and I don't want to do that. With whatever's left on my brush, I like to just like, oh so carefully, oh so gently press the bronzer down kind of throughout where I have more coverage, because if I don't, then it can start to look like there's some different continents on my face. And then I'm just going to take my finger and the color Coral and tap it right onto the highest points of my cheekbone. Just being so careful to press and tap. Put that on my lips. And then I'm going to use the highlight beige on my cheekbones. So that's it for the complexion makeup. I'm going to do the rest of my makeup real quick and then hop back on over. All right, that's it. I hope that this was helpful to you, if in no other way than to make you feel validated, because I know that I kind of need that in this time, this hard time of acne. Before I go, I did want to give you guys a quick update about salt. Next month, put it in your brains, put it in your hearts. It's a huge announcement, or should I say, small announcement. And just kind of touch base with you guys. I know we've been sold out for a while for a lot of the products you guys want, and I really appreciate you telling me how much you want those products. Basically, it's a really small company, and we have the very good problem of demand exceeding what we're able to do. So what I've been doing over the last few months is really setting up just infrastructure, building some systems so that we can accommodate the demand better and more quickly, but it just takes time. You know, like I just started this, it's been me alone for a long time. And so we've got exciting things happening, but right now we've just been basically having to reorganize ourselves in a way that we can actually accommodate how much people want these products, which is so awesome. But I appreciate you guys' patience while we work through these growing pains. So yeah, I appreciate you guys. I mean, endlessly. With my whole soul, I appreciate you guys and your patience and your excitement. I am excited to have some new things happening and be able to be not annoying and actually say what they are very soon. Anyway, thank you so much for watching. As usual, don't forget to like this video if you liked it, and like this video if you did not like it. You can follow me on Snapchat, Instagram, and Twitter at Kiki G Makeup, and you can follow Salt for updates about all that stuff I just said at Salt New York. Feel free to subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications, because apparently YouTube doesn't want to tell people when you make content unless you do that now. Isn't this a fun system? Anyway, I'm putting out videos on Saturdays now. This is the third Saturday in a row, and I'm going to continue with that. So either just know that, or you can click to get notified. Have a lovely rest of your day, and I will see you guys next Saturday.